Now, Brazil ongoing election sees different opinions. Now, as we all know, Brazil is having the election today, the 7th of October 2018. And yeah, several people have had different opinions about the ongoing election. Now, we've had some comments and some people share certain things about Brazil and what they feel, especially after they had, their recent ex-president, being jailed for certain reasons. People are of the view that this guy was the main reason why their economy became what it is today. Now, let's see how it goes. Let's just go straight into the comments and see what people are saying. Now, Brazil's far right leader, Jair Bolsonaro, is a front runner in the country elections. He has survived an assassination attempt but faces accusations of misogyny and racism. Now, can his populist rhetoric clinch him the win? It's left for you to answer. Now, some Brazilian just sent a post, and this is what he says. It's rather long, and I would read it for you. Now it says, who would have thought fascism would make the roaring comeback? It has. The sickness of fascism was thought dead after the Second World War, but it seems the voters do not remember the horrors this philosophy brought down upon the entire world. Now, the fascists make dream statements like, oh, we will fix everything and we will make everyone else pay. And yet they seem to forget that they will be on the slate soon enough to be corrected for being less than they expected. Now, this is the symptom of a world gone mad because they have lost their God. Now, are you good? Are you good? Good. Now, he goes on to say, the atheists claim they knew something, especially during the 1990s and early 2000s, with the claims of no God. It was all lies. They knew nothing at all. All the debunkers have been debunked themselves and have turned into charlatans that were only out to make a buck. As most people believe TV, they believe what they saw on TV. They watched Dawkins as he brayed like a mule and actually pretended that he knew things like miracles did not happen. Now, there is no need for God, they proudly boasted, but it is all fiction. There is simply no way for the universe to just come about by accident. How would the space for this accident happen exist? Now, people elevated these fraudsters into the highest levels of knowing. Then, after their enormous wisdom became fact for many people, I started watching scientists say things on TV like, not that I believe there's a creator of the universe, or not that I believe there's a God. The problem is that this is just a belief. Now, there's no substance to these statements. There have been even cosmologists who have waded in saying things absurd, like the universe would have risen by accident from the quantum matrix spontaneously, as if the quantum matrix was not part of the universe. The quantum matrix has an external and eternal existence of its own then. And this kind of thinking made it through peer review. How astonishing. Now, this is where the kind of thinking leads. Vote for truth and justice. Vote for love and peace. Vote to clean up this planet before we are all dead. It still reminds of the killing of Hunter's Glen Creek. I've told this story many times. I think most people have never experienced anything like this and live in bubble where everything is okay. Hunky-dory Hunter's Glen Creek is a tributary of Highland Creek, the largest watershed in Scarborough. Hunter's Glen Creek was an urban paradise. Muskrat and even the occasional otter would ply the waters and live in the creek. Now, there were small fish, frogs, crayfish, and turtles. lots of life and wonders. Then I went down to the creek one day and it was bright fluorescent green. I followed the creek up to the source of the pollution. It was a paint factory on Kennedy Road. Everything died in the creek and never recovered. We are in the creek and the paint has been dumped in. Then you vote to have more paint put in the creek because the faces said it was good for you. The reasons why the faces can easily do the horrendous things that they do is that they answer to no one. And it says Jair Bolsonaro, Brazil's Donald Trump, appears headed for presidential win. So all this was written by one Brian Johnston, and there was his view and a little compilation for Brazil's ongoing election. We delve in to see one John Jensen also say, "I'm so sick of American interference in foreign elections. The citizens of Brazil are thankfully seeing clearly through the lies." He's of the opinion that the U.S. should stay out of other people's businesses and elections. Okay, that's his view. Most of the times the U.S. steps in, to help and to prevent certain wars and things from happening. But he feels like the U.S. should just stick to their own business and stop poking in others. Now, the New York Times posted saying that for many Brazilians, this weekend, presidential elections have come down to who is the least bad option. And I actually agree. You've been looking at who's been doing the bad things and who hasn't been doing too many bad things, and that's not supposed to be what elections is about. Now let's get into the comments, and then we see what some of these Brazilians are saying about it, because I've also had a chance to go through some of their election strategies, and I've realized that most of the times it's based on who's doing what bad and who's not doing which one bad. Now, one Cleonice Lima Pierre Diarajuro says it doesn't have to be the extremes. Whether PT or Bolsonaro, 012 is the one who has a chance to beat Bolsonaro in the second round. Now, Liga Lima says Bolsonaro is the worst candidate ever. He will destroy Brazil, and it has been the worst period of our recent history. So she's of the view that Bolsonaro is not actually a good candidate. Now, Julian Del Rio says, before people start screaming about saving democracy in Brazil, please inform yourselves. For the past few decades, Brazil's corrupt elite has conditioned millions of its citizens to be uneducated, lazy, and confused as to whom has their interests at hand. They defund education, infrastructure, investment, and then distract the uneducated, underemployed masses with funk music and Bolsa Familia. The PT is Brazil's Chavista party. It was elected during an economic golden era and crashed the entire country in a little over a decade. Now, Odebrecht scandal, Petrobras scandal, the failures of the Olympics and World Cup construction project, capital flight to Miami, ridiculous anti-American rhetoric as a placebo for the masses, failure to invest in education and infrastructure. This is all on the PTO. The option Brazil has now is to vote for another party, and if they have to really suck up a far-right bigot, if it means stabilizing the country, they will do so, because they starve to death if they don't. So that was Julian's opinion being meted out there. Now let's go into one Heather Mills, who's also a Brazilian. She says, just like our last election, but the West one. Okay, yeah, I really didn't get it. Now, Greco Vieira says Bolsonaro is the best candidate. Lucas Fingolo says, but where is Ciro Gomes? He's also a candidate. He is third in the race for the charge. So we don't know where Ciro Gomes is. Where is Ciro Gomes? Does anyone know where Ciro Gomes is? Let's search for Ciro Gomes and then help Lucas to have an answer. Now, Gabriel Shajenki Albinao says, I think the best option for Brazilians is to give up on Brazil. Things are going to get really bad. People in Brazil are too divided because of their ideologies. So Gabriel thinks they should not even vote, they should just forget everything and give up because things have become so bad that there's actually nothing to look up to. Now, Emmanuel Sauza says, at this moment, Brazil is going to a deeper well. We do not have our hope on our candidates, but first of all, Brazilians are afraid with fear of the future. We have good people who can be president, and we don't choose, and to be honest, I don't know why. People are divided and deceived with the captain's proposals and are building a deeper world. Nobody see this new construction, but some of us know that our country is going down, down, and down. Hashtag rest in peace, Brazil. So that's Emmanuel sharing his sentiments on his country. Rather a little quite humoric, I would say. Now, Ligia Lima comes again to say there's an explosion of violence and disrespect in our country, authorized by the candidate that will save us. Dear Lord, he has been on the system for 27 years and has done nothing to help his own state, Rio. How can a man who has never done nothing good in politics run a country like Brazil? So that's his opinion about, you already know who. Now, Maria Bushino says, Julian Dario, yes, I think you are correct. I feel so bad. Okay, so he is responding to the guy who was sharing his sentiments about Brazil. He says, I think you are correct. I feel so bad in my heart for the wonderful Brazilian people. They deserve better. And yes, they have been sold out by the PT party. And yes, maybe Brazilians are better off voting for a bigot who offers a different direction. My prayers and my heart to all the Brazilian people. Good luck and God bless. Okay, let's move into the next. Claudia Pacanaro. Claudia says, he's not corrupt. He didn't spend our money to win like Lula and the others. Car wash operation show us the reality about Brazilian politics. Now, Richard Daniel says, it seems to be endemic, having to vote for the least worst candidates. We NATO now. Same in the UK, same in AUS, Australia. It's us or them. How about some good old middle ground? Yes. Now, it seems like the case more and more. We are no longer voting for the best person for the job. We are voting for who sucks the least. That was his view. Now, Rodrigo Schwantes Marimon says, Bolsonaro was not my first option, but now it turns out to be the only option. The Workers' Party, that is the PT, has promised better income, equity, and equality, and delivered only taxpayer money through BNDES to the hands of big companies, all run by corrupt businessmen, OGX, JBS, and OD Rept, to name a few. Now, this is a chronic capitalism, and the results are destruction of small enterprises and high unemployment. They also spent too much on privileges and corruption, especially in state-owned companies, which almost went bankrupt. Example being Petrobras. Now, political intervention in the economy and rampant public deficits have led to the greatest recession in Brazilian history. All in all, as a study directed by Thomas Piketty shows, income inequality has been stagnant during the 15 years of PT government. That is probably because the beneficial effects of social programs are offset by the concentration of capital due to chronic capitalism, high taxes, and government bureaucracy. He puts a hashtag PTNAO, hashtag PT never again, and he leaves a very sad face. Now, Jean Bijanke says the least bad option, isn't that what elections always are? I wish Bolsonaro would not be an option. He is what the world does not deserve. Wow. Juan Julio Silva says, please help us. There's a faces running for the presidency. Now, Linda Hioren Quintros says, unfortunately, we know that feeling all too well. Wishing you wisdom and strength, Brazil. Gustavo Caldas comes back to say, Brazilians will choose to continue the path towards becoming next Venezuela or change direction. Nomi Ross comes to say, gosh, that sounds remarkably familiar. And why? Because, countries like Venezuela have gone through certain similar situations. So, yeah, you can say for a fact that, yeah, it could be summed up to that. Now, Renata asks precisely who's the least bad option. Kathy Lewis Vanka says, "This is what we are turning into. No middle class, just super rich and desperately poor. We need a blue tsunami." Now, Arthur Linares comes to say, "Bolsonaro is the natural candidate of the Brazilian population. He represents a racist, homophobic, paternalistic, intolerant, violent, and poorly educated society. Brazilians in general still believe in communism as a real threat. It's a pity, but I have the impression that they will need to go through a fascist system to learn to give value to democracy again." That was Arthur Linares. Now, Chris Simon says, "How is this any different from the last United States election?" Pointing out that Brazil is in no way different from the same election method that the United States went through. Now, same thing happened in the US, and we ended up with the worst choice, Donald Trump. That's Thomas Johnson. Now, Michael Pierce says TX became Bolsonaro very popular in the world, and before 70 he would change the dark history. Okay, so Giancarlo Gabriela says Bolsonaro's vice president is now talking about whitening of the race in a country as diverse as Brazil. Does that even sound familiar? True fascism in person. So that was about it. Based on people thinking the election in Brazil has become a matter of not who is actually good for running the country, but who is the least sucker to run the country. Meaning all the candidates for Brazil's election are suckers. So they are actually trying to vote for the one who sucks the least. Let's have a little editing and a little edit in our words as we go about this election. Remember, this is a very trying time, and with this going on, we wouldn't want wars or any tribalism or any form of fight to spark up. So that is it over there. Now, Brazil, as we all know, is a very beautiful country. It has seen a rather sour presidential and election history, especially after the jailing of their ex-president. Now, Vice News has come to say, even though Brazil has always had a ultra-nationalistic hardliners, what makes this year election different is that their rhetoric has a much broader appeal, and I think he has a point there. The rhetoric has a much broader appeal, and yeah, it's only someone with a vivid mind who would try to get the deep meaning behind that. Now, why Brazil might elect an ultra right-wing former military man for president is up to you to tell. Now, James Lang says this is a terrifying time for Brazil to descend back into military dictatorship or to fall apart economically. Joano Ducru says hopefully Brazil will stop that guy. It's well known that what happens with this kind of people in power, more violence, more inequality, more hate and fear. Tiago Sperini says Vice one-sided way of telling the story. Bolsonaro is the only hope we've got. Now, Walter Padini says ultra-right. LOL, get your facts right before posting them. Nowhere close to right-wing, more central and more center-right. As for your media, we all know that it stands far, far, far left. Get your facts right, folks. The least we would expect from an impartial media. He says that to the people who actually put it out there. Now, Shirley Paris comes to say, I still have a hard time with the facts and decisions made pertaining to the Olympics. Remember when former President Obama was in office? Bidding was taking place, and one of the choices was Chicago or Brazil. Now, well, they chose Brazil. One of the lame excuses was the crime rate wasn't as bad as Chicago's at the time. Now, I've been of the opinion that it's lighter than President Obama. The country of Brazil is a hellhole and obviously has gotten much worse. So that's Cheryl Paris's comments, kind of a little hard, but we'll just leave it as that. Nick Manti says another Duterte or Trump, but in Brazil, trust me, it does not work well at all. Okay, so these people have shared their views on the issue at hand on how Brazil is doing and how the elections are taking place. It seems there's a lot of opposition coming on Bolsonaro's end, but it will take time for us to see who's going to come out as victor and who's going to come out as the loser. Now, one Francis said, "Lose, we get the men to change the results. Remember the election petition, and you understand and start to jubilate. Remember that Brazil is going through a time where they have to make the right decision or the least worst decision. Now, let's say Brazil chooses the wrong candidate. I don't see how it's going to do any big difference, since you people are all of the view that the country is already in a very degrading state. Now, let's just stick to trying to get the best out of the country. Let's support them and let's do what is right for them. Remember, whatever affects them, one way or the other could affect us. Brazil is a beautiful place with beautiful people. They have just gone through a rather dark history, and I think with time it will heal, and the right things will be put in place. Thank you for watching and listening. Do subscribe and leave your comments and likes on the video. Do also follow other media outlets, GhanaNewsBase.com. And yeah, you are always welcome to share your views. Have a nice day. Ghana News Base.